And you want to look at me? I'm just going to check here, see how we're doing, because I'm shooting at 1.4 and I never trust the Sigma to shoot at 1.4 for both of my subjects at the same time. This is looking wonderful. All right. Hey everybody, it's Tim Gowling, a wedding and lifestyle photographer based out of Eastern Ontario. Canon have finally brought us an RF 85mm 1.4 aperture VCM lens. And the big question is it worth upgrading to from one of the more popular portrait lenses out there, the Sigma Art Series 85mm 1.4 aperture lens? Today I'm going to break down the build quality, autofocus, and image quality, and of course I'm going to show you the results side by side. I'm just going to interrupt this video for a short moment of your time. Where do you buy your camera equipment from? I buy all my professional grade equipment from Camera Canada, and there's a reason for it. They have a fast and easy to use website. They have plenty of availability of stock, and they keep stuff in stock that I haven't seen anywhere else. Their shipping is also super duper quick, and their customer service over the phone has always been fantastic to me. You can find their link to Camera Canada in the description below. Now back to the video. Alright guys, so let's jump into the build quality of these lenses. Now picking up both of these lenses, you can tell the difference in weight. The Sigma being the much heavier lens of the two. Now the Canon RF 85-1.4 comes fully weather sealed, as you should expect nowadays with any L series glass. It has 3 rings on it. You have an aperture control ring, which you can unlock and lock with this button on the side. And you can have a variable D-clicks aperture control when in video mode. Or you can control it manually in photo mode if you're using an R5 Mark II or an R1. Me personally, I just leave it in the locked position. I don't do video mode like that. But it is handy for anyone who does use this lens that way. And then going on to the manual focus ring. This ring is very nicely damped. It doesn't feel like it's electronically controlled. And when you're in manual focus, you should see, I know I can see this with my R3, that you can get a distance scale in the bottom of your viewfinder, because they did away with the viewports on the side. And then you have the custom dial, which is clicked. I personally don't use this, but you can use it to set aperture, you can use it to set white balance. I don't use this feature. And then you have a button on the side too, a custom function button. The build of this lens feels like it is a plastic composite lens, so I'm hoping it holds up with regular work use. But I haven't heard on the forums of anyone's RF lenses coming apart on them, especially the L series glass. So I stand in good hopes that I believe this lens could hold up for many work days. On the back there you have the weather sealing gasket and a big large rear element there. And you will notice, unlike the 35 1.4 VCM lens, that this doesn't have the option to drop in any gel filters into the back, which is not an issue for me, and I don't see why it would be an issue really for many other people. Having the camera now mounted to the R3, it is really nicely balanced, and it feels good in the hands too when you use it. I am not used to using an 85 this small, so far I have really enjoyed using it. It no longer pulls on your wrist. It is a very, very nicely balanced setup now. You also will receive a lens hood. It has a locking design with a little release button here, which I think is great because the lens hoods that I've encountered that don't have a lock on them, they do tend to wear out with regular use throughout the years. And then you have to resort to taping the lens hood onto the lens if that lens hood has been discontinued. So it clicks very nicely onto the lens. I do find, however, it's almost like a little bit of a flimsy design. I'm not sure if that's just weight savings, but it's not as thick a plastic as they have been in the past. So it is, I'd say, I'm on the fence to whether or not this is going to be more durable or not. Maybe with the flexibility that it has less chance of breaking if like knocked. Time will tell, because it will only flex so much before it snaps. Now, as for comparison's sake, we have the 85 Sigma lens now mounted on the Canon R3, and you can see the size difference is considerably different. It is a much bigger lens, and you can really feel the weight pulling your wrist down a bit. And this can make a difference over a long day, whether or not you have strong wrists or not. And then it also comes with a lens hood too, which doesn't have a locking mechanism, and it is just held in there by a friction tab. Now, over the years of use, I have found that tab has worn off, and this comes off. As you can see by the tape, I have resorted to, on a wedding day, taping it to my lens because I will lose it too many times. And I will still lose it every so often. It's a kind of a miracle that I've actually managed to keep this lens hood. But it is more sturdy design. So, you know, the toss-up is in, you know, whether or not, I mean, I know this lens hood has survived. It's just whether or not the new Canon RF 85mm lens hood will survive. But unlike the Sigma lens, the Canon lens hood, if I do need a replacement, I should be able to get it for many years to come. If I can get it on there. And then unlike the Canon one, this lens is not fully weather sealed, much to my disappointment when I found out. It is manually focus controlled, and it is metal too, unlike the plastic composite design of the RFs, which then adds to the weight, as well as the bigger, larger front element. Canon uses their new VCM autofocus system in this lens. It's designed to be fast, silent, and accurate. When you compare that to the Sigma HSM motor, this lens definitely has a higher keeper rate. The price points of these lenses are somewhat different. The Sigma lens does come in at $1,500 Canadian if you can still find it. From the Sigma website, as of now, it is back ordered while still available in the Nikon mount. I don't anticipate it coming back into stock. There are still some suppliers out there that do have it if you want to buy it new, but your options are now starting to get limited, where the Canon 85mm VCM lens is currently on sale for around $2,000. All in, a $500 difference compared to what you're getting with Canon's latest and greatest equipment. Personally, I'll try and go for the Canon lens. We're now out in the real world, and on the Canon R3, I now have the Canon 85mm 1.4 VCM lens. And for comparison, we're going to be using the Sigma 85 1.4 Art Series lens with these beautiful models we have with us today. Now we're going to be testing out the tracking capability of this new 1.4 VCM lens. All right, okay guys, so let's start walking towards me. There you go, knock each other about a bit, come on now. There we go, that is beautiful. Just even from starting, like there's maybe one or two shots that are like a little bit, but F2, like it nails the focus pretty quickly. There we go, and turn around to look towards me. That's fantastic. Repeat the same thing. You guys walking towards me, I'm just going to change my lens real quick. And then bump into each other with your hips. There we go. And come in for a kiss. Michaela, do you want to put your arm up? There we go. That's beautiful. I love that. Oh my gosh, you guys are beautiful. I love it. This Sigma has been doing a very good job for me in the past, and it's been very good to me. Its tracking is still pretty on point, but you can see that some shots, it doesn't nail every single shot. Some shots that I would love to be in focus, but its keeper rate is still very high. All right, so coming as a wedding photographer, using this lens all day. Now, I've only been using this lens for a brief period this morning. I can already tell that it is much better balanced. It is much lighter. It is less front heavy because the front element of the Sigma lens is very heavy, and you do feel that on your wrist. So using a lens for 8 hours a day, 90% of the time on a camera body, the ergonomics of this lens is going to be very favorable. I love that. Just going to come around here. This is where the magic happens, right here. All right, and then look towards each other. I can see a bunch of lens flares in here. Maybe it needs a slightly bigger lens hood because it's ricocheting down the barrel. So if you shoot directly into the sun, it produces these really large kind of swirls. Right, let's try again with the Sigma, see how that holds up. I mean, it's not going to stop me from shooting the other one because I'm having to shoot really low down here. Just looking at these pictures briefly on the camera, as much as I do love the new VCM lens, I do, as part of my style, I do shoot my lens straight into the sun. And looking at the lens flares quickly at the back of the camera, I do actually prefer the lens flares produced by the Sigma Art Series lens. All right, so let's head into Lightroom and check out the results that we got from this portrait session. Let's start with the Sigma 85mm. Having a look here, any photos that you see that are in black and white are pictures that I've deemed to be out of focus. So having a quick scroll, I did take 1,000 pictures with the 85. As you can see, all the pictures that are out of focus, we got a total of 17 out of that 1,000, which I'd say is pretty good. And some of them weren't even out of focus. It's just what Aftershoot deemed to be not in focus. So if we go in here and you see her sweater is in focus. This one here you can see is clearly out of focus, as well as these other ones with lens flare. So let's have a look here and check out the focus tracking. Let's pick some standard shots here. As you can see, it's nicely in focus, out of focus, in focus. That one is marginal. It's like the Sigma likes to back focus just a little bit. So let's mark that one as black and white too. And as you can see, that one's black and white too. It does a pretty good job at keeping everything in focus. You see the focus is locked on to the fella over on the left. And it has done a pretty good job. Now, these models are not walking at full speed, so throughout weddings I normally have less keepers. But this was a nice, easygoing session. As you can see, it's keeping them lovely in focus. Let's scroll further down and check out these. The Sigma there renders some nice bokeh, nice and smooth, whilst keeping the subjects wonderfully in focus. This is shot at f2. And it does an admirable job. And it has been a workhorse lens of mine for quite some time. And it renders bokeh very nicely. Now, all these images that you're seeing have not been edited yet. There we go, we're going into some lifting shots. That's cute. The focus is just back a hair, but it's still an image that I would deliver. She is enough in focus. to make it a deliverable shot. And this is shot at 1.4. And quite often in events, I don't, because things move really fast, I don't often trust this lens to give me a decent amount of results at 1.4. But as I'm static, I'm not moving, and they're moving really slowly, the focus seems to be like around here. But again, still a nice picture. It's still something that I would deliver. And let's scroll further down. These are some nice shots too. And the autofocus with the Sigma lens with eye tracking enabled on the R3. It does a pretty good job. Even at 1.4, let's scroll down a little more. Another out of focus shot there. Another one right here. And again, it's pretty much in focus there. It does a pretty good job. And again, that's slightly out of focus. And these are some really nice pictures here. Love this one too. This was shot at 1/2000 a second at f1.6, ISO 200. And you can see like it's back focused just a little bit. It's not even quite sharp here. It's like focused over here and on her sweater when eye tracking is enabled. There we go, it's brought itself back in there. So it's done a reasonably good job. Let's try this one here. Again, the bokeh is nice and smooth. This is shot at f2. And these, don't forget that all these images are without any edits. So jump into the develop module. Let's have a look. This is my own edit applied. You see, it's not on her face. It's locked onto her hand. But it does give a very nice background, and you can see some, what would be trees, some bokeh balls there, nice and round. So let's jump into the RF 85mm 1.4. So what aftershoot is labeled to be out of focus shots, we have 18. Again, these ones aren't necessarily out of focus, just bad positioning. This one out of focus, but that's still a rather cool shot. Even with it being out of focus, I think that's just a happy mistake. For some reason, I love that in black and white. This one out of focus for whatever reason, shot at 400ths of a second, which should be easily to get that in focus. I'm not sure why it missed focus there. This one has been labeled out of focus because of the lens flare, the ghosting, and that's something that I want to talk about as well. But I can see, let's put that one out of focus, that one's out of focus. These ones are not out of focus. So let's remove these from this selection to give us an accurate number, and let's change them to yellow. So out of the total shots there, I took 1600 pictures with the new 85. I have 9 out of focus. Those ones not even really being out of focus. As you can see, they are still in focus despite the lens flare and ghosting. So I'd say probably 5, which is pretty fantastic. Let's have a look, see if we can find any shots that are super shallow depth of field. This is shot at 1.4, but that one is sharp. So for the walking shots, we have 1 out of focus shot right there. And that one's in focus too. Wonderful, wonderful. As you can see, the tracking does a really good job. And this is zoomed in at 100%. As you can see, it does a remarkable job at keeping things in focus. You see it is getting them in focus here, which is a difficult shot because it's a layered shot. Again, in focus, this is where, you know, this couple is in focus here now, where with the Sigma 85, it was back focusing slightly. And some more lovely pictures here. I like this one too. Well, in focus, the eye tracking is done very well, especially with subjects that are a few meters away. All in all, I think this lens has done a very good job. Right, so let's see how the colors hold up with the quick edit. So what I was doing was I was holding a leaf in front of the camera. That one's a cute one. Okay, let's process this one real quick. All right, let's bring the temperature up. Oh, look at that. That looks nice. Look at those colors. This was shot at f2. There we go. Lovely and sharp. Look at those bokeh balls there. Even at f2, they look remarkably nice. And the lens is focused relatively well, considering that I've put a leaf in front of it to add some texture and some interest to the image. That is lovely. You can see the colors are very nice and warm. So from what I can see, for total images that are out of focus with the RF, I have brought it up to about 9. And so not even that, because these ones are in focus. So we have five or so images out of focus. I'd say, you know, around 10, because I haven't had the chance to look through them all. And then with the Sigma lens, we have 20. Now on a fast moving day, you are going to have a lot more out of focus with the Sigma. Now one thing I did want to talk about, because it is my kind of style, is lens flare. So let's hop in and we'll have a little look and we'll discuss that. So here we go, we're showing the lens flares of the RF 85mm 1.4. I've marked 71 images. What I don't like, so even though this image is in focus, and it could be that it's just past golden hour at this point, but look at this colored halo right here in ghosting. I feel like that could be a problem, and this would be a beautiful image. I mean, I might still like this. This is, what is that? What is that? And again, a lot more of it. This one's a little bit cleaner, less flare, and it's still rather sharp. So now let's look at the Sigma. Again, it still has it, but it doesn't have that same ugly circle in there. Still in focus, holding up really reasonably well. Look at that. That's in focus. That's reasonably well. Still have like a horrible circle down there, but it's not right in the middle of the image. Again here, just a little bit. Maybe I'm being overly critical. Here again, the Sigma has some right there. So I think this is something worth talking about. Okay, so going back from our results from Lightroom, you can see that these lenses are pretty close. The Canon does have a slightly faster autofocus and is a tad bit sharper at apertures of 1.4. However, by f2, they do have very similar results, and they are pretty equal in sharpness. You can see that the Sigma one doesn't have as high a keeper rate of images, and I can say from using it at weddings, it doesn't usually keep as many as the ones we had in that photo shoot. But bear in mind, that photo shoot was under a controlled environment, and my subjects were moving fairly slowly. But if you're on a budget, this lens is still very fantastic. The Sigma has made my money and paid bills. What I'm looking forward to though, however, is not having to drag it around all day for 8+ hours a day, because this one is lighter. It is so much lighter. Now, it's not 500 grams light, but it's still underneath 1,000 grams. What I will say though is the ghosting and flaring. It's a bit of a tough spot for me, because I like doing that to my images. And as you can see, looking at the front elements, the Sigma is a larger diameter lens. And that's why it can handle the ghosting and flaring better. Now, I'm not an optical engineer, but making a good educated guess is that is why it can handle that. Where Canon have limited themselves to this VCM design, where they have a bunch of lenses all the same size, and they go, okay, this is the framework we have. You need to put an 85mm lens inside of this casing. And we saw that with the 35mm too, where they relied heavily on digital optimization. Where this lens, it doesn't rely on the same digital optimization being needed. But with having a smaller element and a smaller design, it can't handle those lens flares as well as the Sigma lens. Is it a deal breaker? No, but it is disheartening, because you're getting so much more compared to the other lens. You're getting the full weather sealing, it is lighter, it is faster focusing, And I'm especially looking forward to testing it out at weddings where the environment is very dynamic and people move relatively quickly. So I'm really looking forward to getting it out to some weddings and seeing what my keeper rate is, because I can see just from that photo shoot that the Sigma, it doesn't have the same keeper rate as the Canon. Now, if you're on a budget, the Sigma is still a fantastic lens. Don't get me wrong, I love this Sigma lens. It has been a true workhorse. However, I have had some issues with it, just out of longevity. The lens mount came apart on me on one of the last weddings I used it for, and it became loose, and I noticed, thankfully I caught it in time, because some of the images I was looking back, because I like to chimp, and I'm like, why are some of these pictures not quite right, like soft, and it's like where they should be, and I could feel the lens wiggling in my hand. So what I did, I had some fabric tape with me because I used it to tape on my lens hood because it's worn out. So I actually taped around the lens barrel to hold it together, and then I tightened it up when I got home. But since then, the autofocus squeaks a little bit. Now this lens is 10 years old, 10 plus years old. It's been worked. It has been used for work. So I'm not really going to knock, for the amount of time that it had in its life, I'm not really going to hold that against it, except for that, you know, that's the last thing you want to happen on a wedding day. But if you're, you know, on a budget, I recommend this lens. But for not that much more, and if you're already in the RF system, you have this lens. And it really isn't that much more. So with the lightweight, the faster autofocus, I'm going to recommend this lens. It is fully weather sealed, and I'm pretty excited to be taking it out on a wedding. Okay, so I think it's time to wrap this review video up. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. Have a good one, guys.